Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Siddhartha in a Car. Today I have a very special guest, Richard Fletcher. Richard Fletcher and me go back 30 years. I was thinking maybe even long, maybe 35 years, but way back there where we first met in Sedona, Arizona. So I always like to start every interview with my impressions of the person I'm interviewing and what inspired me about them. So I'm just going to start off and say right out front, Richard Fletcher is the most chilled individual I know. And so he has always inspired me with how he just deals with life, who he is as a person, how he just seems to flow pretty much effortlessly. With all the things that he does. Richard is a poet these days and has been a poet. How long, Richard, would you say? When did you actually start writing poetry?
I started probably about 35 years ago.
Yeah, and you were telling me, how many poems do you have now? I think you were telling me.
Oh, I got it in the thousands.
In the thousands.
I've written 50 books then. In
50
years.
books, ladies and gentlemen. 50
That's
books.
My passion is writing, meditation, cooking, and surfing when I'm around the water.
Right, and I definitely want to address that. And I know you've done other work too to kind of support yourself along the journey. And I want to talk to you about that too. I want to talk about that balance of, the real world, the other world, and then your spiritual path and your poetry. But I want to back up all the way to surfing because I've always been inspired by surfing. I've only been once, and I've never been back, but I understand how you could get addicted to that very easily. Just such a wonderful thing to literally ride the waves of life, And so now you're in Kansas City. So I'm assuming you haven't done too much surfing.
No, I haven't. But one thing I learned about surfing, there's two kinds of waves. There's an inner wave and there's an external wave.
Mm-hmm.
I've been fortunate enough to spend most of my childhood surfing the external wave. There's nothing in the world quite like that. In high school, I saved every single penny that I earned to go on a surfing spiritual odyssey trip around the world.
Right.
So I hitchhiked from France to India with my surfboard. Spent a considerable amount of time in India, and then I hitchhiked from Kenya to South Africa. So, surfing and meditation are definitely dear to my heart. I'll never leave that. Right now, there are no waves, but there's an inner wave inside that I've been riding since I was 17 years old, and it keeps on getting better and better. So I miss the ocean, but I'm not at a loss without it. I've at this point, in my life, I'm at home wherever I am.
Yeah.
Home's definitely that inner place inside.
Yeah, and that's great to hear because I am doing this journey right now. I've been on the road about 2 months, as I mentioned to you, and where do I want to live? Where do I want to be? And that very thought keeps coming up to me. It's really wherever you are, wherever wherever there's family, and family is not necessarily blood family. It's just a family of like minds. And where you feel settled, I can have a conversation with a cow and feel at home.
Yeah.
And so, thank you for that reminder. It really is about being settled in yourself. And again, you're one of the best examples of that I know. When did you first start writing poetry? Did surfing lead into poetry?
Well, in high school, I had this incredible poetry teacher. She really. Here's a perfect example of how kind and compassionate she was. We were all assigned to read some kind of a poem. So I read a poem from Paramahansa Yogananda. Granted, at that time, it was completely beyond my level of comprehension, but I loved it. So we had to stand in front of the class and we had to recite the poem. Actually, read the poem, not exactly recite it by memory, but we had to read the poem. So after that, I recited the poem. She says, "Well, what does it mean?" And I said, "Well, it's self-explanatory." So she could have right on the spot, stopped me and drilled me,
Right.
but she did not do that. And I know, she was literally, saying, she knew I didn't understand it, but I had the courage to think outside of the box. And
Right.
that's what she wanted for me to do, was to think outside the box. So just that one experience in itself just gave me that inspiration that, I had a teacher who totally supported me, who knew I didn't know the answer and yet didn't question me. And years later, I mean, to be honest, I can almost understand any subject whatsoever. I've been meditating now for 50 years, and to be honest, I'm kind of blown away by the wisdom that exists in all of us.
Yeah.
Every single one of us, there's an infinite amount of wisdom that exists inside. So, it's only been for, I guess, a good 5 years that I've been doing it every day. We did that poetry CD. Gosh, it must have been 12, 13 years ago.
Right.
And that, that CD was comprised of poems that I wrote from probably 87 to somewhere around 2005, 2006. And you saw even back then, I had a huge white book, with
Right.
all the poems, and we picked and choose the ones that we thought would be appropriate.
Right. No, this is great. And, I had a great interview yesterday with a teacher, and we were talking about this very subject, how that one teacher in so many cases is the pivotal point in your life, and I had that same experience. It was a family member's dad who was a teacher. He never taught me directly, but he became a mentor and encouraged me to get into music. And he had 5 daughters. He never had a son. So I think he wanted a son. Yeah, he took me under his wing, and we'd have coffee and we'd talk. And man, he did everything. He was a Renaissance man. Besides teaching science, he traveled all over the place. He was reading Seth Speaks and books like that. His daughters thought it was so weird. They made him a nice little room in the garage where he could live, But he sang and played piano and painted. It was just amazing. So that one person. So I wanted to ask you, in light of all the things that you do, and the poetry and the surfing and the other things you do in life, what is it that you want to portray and express to people? What is, if you could say there's an underlying message that you would like to say to people?
Probably the underlying message, I would say, is that we are our own master chemists. And basically what I mean by that, the thoughts that we think and the emotions that we have secrete chemicals in the body, good or bad. And so basically we're in charge of our chemistry set. We can't blame anyone else for whatever happens outside of ourselves. So basically, so with chemistry, and I even learned as a programmer that every single program that you do, there's thousands of bugs. That's how bugs, you need bugs in order to improve the program, because it shows you, there's an area that you need to work on. Yeah. So my whole thing is, if it comes down to, it's probably self-realization. That's that. I mean, we are all the missing piece of the puzzle for the universe. Each one of us is unique. Each one of us is different. Each of us acts. Each of us is even wired differently. We're all wired for that experience.
So would you say that meditation is a doorway to that knowledge.
Exactly. And not only meditation, but paying attention moment by moment.
Yeah.
We don't meditate to escape. We meditate to be as practical as we can on this planet. That's why I think being spiritual is probably the most practical thing that you can do. Most people think people meditate to escape.
Right.
But the goal is, like even for the Kabbalistic, they say to have, and actually it's like kind of like idiot. In here, it's an offense, to call someone an idiot. But what it truly means is feet on the ground and head in heaven.
Interesting. In heaven.
So be extremely practical, day by day. Learn about this world, learn how, to improve in every single moment. And I believe the more attention you pay to something, it pays attention to you,
right.
over time. So
right.
In the beginning, it's say I was meditating, it's say upon the universe, and after a certain point, the universe starts to meditate on you.
Wow.
There's a switch over. So and once again, it's a mindset. Pay attention, moment by moment, day by day. If you fall, pick yourself up, concentrate, pay attention, and it's just like a tuning fork. As a musician, you use a tuning fork to tune your instruments.
Right.
So internally, we have a tuning fork.
I call that, sympathetic resonance. Like you're thinking a thought, and then you attract that thought too. And back to that point of spiritualism being practical, I wanted to address it because you're a programmer, right? Computer programmer.
Yeah, I've been doing for 35 years.
35 years.
I've worked for Charles Schwab
right.
for 10 years. I worked for the observatory in Maui. In Maui, imagine this, that we were tracking satellites. And this was in the early 90s. And so imagine we had a guy in the dome at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's freezing up there, middle of winter, and the guy's in a snowsuit. And of course, a snowsuit is extremely warm.
Right.
So here it is. We have a super high important pass that we're doing. And then the guy dozes off. And his whole goal is to move the dome so the telescope can point in the sky. And
right.
So, and a pass, you have to be extremely alert. You have to be, because you're constantly moving the dome this way and that way. Anyway,
right.
Make a long story short, Boeing, it was owned by the Air Force, and we were subcontractors. It was a huge problem. So, and every time, that happened, I think we got dinged like $10,000.
Wow.
So a course of a year, it could be like $2 million in fines.
Yeah.
So,
wow.
My manager came up to me and said, "Richard, we got to do something about this." So I had 1 month to complete it. So in 1 month, it was completed, and I did it so well that they said, "Well, we have another a dome right next to this. We want you to do that one." Now the funny story is this was done on a small IBM HE pizza box. I got a phone call 3 years ago. And so this is 91. And so this is around 2018, 19. I get a phone call from a friend of mine at the observatory. And it says, "Hey, Richard, you want to hear something that will blow your mind? Just think that same program in that same pizza box is working today."
Yeah, everywhere. Wow. Well, that's what I mean. You have this work, which to me is very left brain. I can turn on my computer, I can do what we're doing today, and that's pretty much it. So poetry, to me anyway, like music, is very right brained. So I love this idea that you've been able for all these years to find that balance between your left and right brain, which is very unusual in the people that I know. The musicians are really far to the right, have a little left brain going on, but you've done it. You've managed to work, like you said, for these large companies in the capacity of a programmer, and then at the same time work on your poetry, and express your spirituality through your poetry. Have you ever had any moments of just doubt, or fear that you're just, you're lost. You just don't know what the next step is. And because I know people come across that in their path, especially younger people who want to be artists, or they're going for something and they just, they just run into a wall every once in a while. Can you address that?
Yeah, I mean, I think we all know that we come down here for a purpose. There is a meaning to our life, and I ask that, constantly for a good, probably 40 years. I say I did not answer that question until 5 years ago, until I really started writing on an everyday basis. Finally, it clicked on me. Now I know, and so I asked, so that was between, let's say, 18 years old, all the way through, let's say, I'm 68, so around 64 years old. I knew there was a reason. And still, I, I, I didn't have any doubts that I wouldn't discover that, because I knew through meditation and living, that every day, we uncover more of ourselves. And then so, a lot of times, we have early bloomers who everyone is different. I was not an early bloomer when it came to that. To me, as a matter of fact, my brother could touch anything. Here's an example. My mom and dad gave us bicycles. I must have been 4 or 5 years old, and this was for Christmas. And so, and I'm a twin. So we go outside, take it out, on the street. My brother hops on the bicycle, and away he goes. Now, for me, I stumbled and fell. It took me a whole month to learn how to ride a bicycle.
Wow.
And finally I did. And it was totally a blessing in disguise, because from that experience, I learned that I can learn anything.
Yeah.
Just takes practice and time. Now, fast forward years later, my wife, you met Barbara.
Sure. Yeah.
And Barbara says, you learn things too easy. And so, I just kind of silently smile inside, and I say, if you only knew.
Right. Yeah.
So that's why I think we're all custom built. Never give up. I guess that's what I'm saying. Never give up. You are never alone. We think we're alone, but we are never alone.
Okay, well, this is great, because this leads right into my next question. If you could say one thing to kids coming up, whether they want to go into the workforce, they want to be artists, whatever they want to do, what could you leave with them based on your experiences?
Based on my experience is with kids, I would say is that they should, moment by moment, be aware, or try to be aware of the presence behind your breath. And just think, behind your breath is the same breath is behind the breath of the universe.
So how would they do that? If you just to guide them right now, you have a kid in front of you.
To guide them right now, it just concentrate the mind on the breath. Watch it go in and watch it go out. We were never taught this in school. This is probably the most simplest technique there is, but it's the most powerful technique there is. I mean, most people, when I say this, to be honest, they would just roll their eyes. But I cannot tell you how far one will go if they do this day by day. Because it gets deeper. It's an infinite experience. You're never going to touch the bottom of that well. It's the way. When I was saying having the feet on the ground and your head in heaven, this allows a person to live in this world, but also at the same time not be of this world.
Okay, perfect. That's just what I was going to ask you. So that when a kid says, well, what's it doing for me? What's the point of this? That's it.
Okay, another way is that there's the center of the hurricane, right? So in the center, nothing can touch it, nothing can harm it. Now, for the majority of human beings, instead of being in the center, they're in the hurricane force winds of the mind. We're like leaves blowing in the wind. We have no direction. We have no purpose. We are totally lost. We think, you know, that external events will lead to happiness. If I only had this, if I'm only a little bit older, I can enjoy this or do this. We are constantly driven that external events will bring us peace of mind and calmness. And nothing could be further from the truth. But that's not saying you can have all those toys externally. Right. But one who knows himself, you know, is at peace within.
All right, so it's the attachment to those things. I think that
exactly.
Right, the root of all evil is not money, it's the attachment to the money and the feeling that it's going to solve your problems and make you happy.
Yeah, so. and as George Harrison once said, all things must pass. When I heard that when I was 18 years old, to be honest, I had no idea what he was talking about. and years later, with you know, all of us live through life's experiences, we see all things must pass, no matter what it is. You know, the greatest sorrow, that will pass, and yet the greatest external happiness, that soon will pass.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites of all time. And another quote I love, he said, everything can wait. Everything can wait. You can do it all, but the search for God is important now. This is the thing to do now. You know, where's the God within you? Because we're going to pass. Like you said, we're going to pass. So let's practice that. Every day is a practice toward that end. So this is great, Richard, and we're running out of time here. So do you have any projects or things coming up that you'd like to share with us?
Yeah, right now I'm working on a software project called Magic Rings, you know, .org.
Yeah.
And what Magic Rings is, imagine you have a ring with 30 slides on that ring. So from that, let's say, imagine having PowerPoint, let's say on steroids, because it's all data driven. So this project is for people who have creative endeavors, whether it's poetry or whether it's through art or cooking, to have their rings on board, and people can actually share rings. So let's say, for example, you're into vegan cooking, and you see a whole series of recipes, let's say on pictures of vegan food, let's say Indian food. You then can see a slideshow of Indian food, and then you can click on, oh yeah, I like that. You click on that, and it will take you, you know, to a website that shows the recipe. So people can actually, you know, interact, you know, with rings. They can share rings. So I'm using this as a place where there's no advertisements, you know, and there's no, you know, you're not going to be bombarded, you know, with other let's say unnecessary stuff, you know, that does not promote. Exactly. So we're in the field of I call it curation. You know, there's a difference between curated stuff versus information. So you know, a curator, they care what they put up.
Yeah.
So
oh wow.
That's the huge. I mean, let's say if you had your music, you care about your music.
Right.
That is your world. That is your creation. And so this is what we're doing. Princeton University, they're going to be using us for the class of 1979. They're going to have a virtual art gallery. So wow. They're using our site as a product.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
Can you share that site with us? And then any way you prefer that people get a hold of you? Okay.
it's up, but it's not. We're still testing out, but it's magicrings.org.
Magicrings.org. And for anybody that'd like to get in touch with you, just in general, to maybe ask you questions or to get to know you better, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Best way. I have a music site along with my brother. It's called johnfranklinfletcher.com.
Okay, we'll flash that on the screen. Okay.
Yeah, and there you will see all the stuff that I've done. Mind you, it's a lot. It may be overwhelming.
But you have it. So maybe you have it organized in different themes.
Yeah,
and,
actually
chapters.
on YouTube, I have a channel called Fletcher Soul Traveler.
Right.
And in that, I have themes for all my books that I've done, all the poetry, all the talk stories that I've done. So
okay.
Yeah, I every day I post stuff out there. So I have and I talk about everything. All what's happening, the events around the world,
right?
Personal realization.
Okay.
Yeah, I go through the whole gamut.
Oh my God! Well, you're into so many things, and so again, everyone, culinary artist, poet, programmer, meditator, spiritualist. So, if you'd like to get a hold of Richard, again, what was the Soul Traveler?
Yeah, Soul Traveler is for YouTube.
Right.
And then johnfranklinfletcher.com. That's my twin brother.
Okay.
And on that site, you'll see a menus for Fletcher Soul Traveler for 2000. Let's see, 17, 18, 19, 20, and 21.
Wow.
And then I have a kids section where I wrote a section. My first project for kids was Dragon Tales.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah, so Dragon Tales is the transformation of the dragons, who a young dragon named Zoran got kicked out in England for being pursuing the truth,
for being a bad dragon. For pursuing the truth.
For in that time they could not relate. They thought that stealing, cheating, drinking wine, partying was the answer to life. And Zoran did not accept that at all.
Okay,
so,
check that out.
Long story short.
Oh yeah, well we could talk forever, so got to wind it down. But thank you very much, Richard. What a blessing. I mean, I've learned more about you today than I've known about you. So it's great. But again, I want to just impress that the main thing that's always inspired me about Richard is this calm place that we talked about. And Richard's a perfect example of it. So, and I'm glad that you had that to share with kids because they're dealing with so much these days. Just breathing it in, letting it go. So thank you very much, Richard. Thank you, everybody. I'll catch you next time around. I'm off on the road again, and I'll be back with you soon. Thank you very much. Thanks, Richard.
Okay, you're welcome. Okay, have a good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks for joining in, everyone. If you'd like to stay in touch and updated about future programs and events, please check out my website and leave your email address. If you'd like to support this program, my music, workshops, and other events, see the link below and check out the benefits you'll receive by becoming a patron. Meanwhile, I wish you maximum creativity, power, and love. See you next time.